Welcome to Beyond the Tavern Wall, everyone. It is a very weird episode today. I am the only one in chat. I say chat's right there. I'm recording this while I'm live right now on my Twitch, but wanted to get an episode out because we haven't had a few for the past few weeks. I'm calling it our summer break. A lot of people have had vacations or have been sick or have some things come up where we haven't been able to get to recording. And you're gonna see chat just gambling throughout the whole thing. Maybe I hide chat as well as we're doing this. We're gonna hide chat so that Apex doesn't just gamble everything and that distracts from it. Sorry, Apex. You can't be the star of the show. It's my show today. Um, but yeah, so I apologize that we haven't been able to get a few episodes up. Very busy. I mean, summer just started and there's a lot of things going on. But we're gonna get back into the swing of things. I'm recording this tonight and it'll be up tomorrow as of the date of recording. Um, and then we're also gonna be recording more episodes tomorrow. Um, so then we can get back into the swing of things. We have like I don't know how super secret it is, but we do have like a secret project. We're kind of redoing the structure of Beyond the Tavern Wall in general. Um, it's hard to come up with topics every week. We've been doing this for 3 years at this point. We've rehashed some episodes. We've done that. It's kind of been hard to come up with topics. So just expect some structural, not anything crazy. Like we'll still do these discussion things, but we have a few other things in mind too that will be coming up probably at the beginning. My guess is that will start at the beginning of next year. I'm not sure though. It will really depend on when the projects can get done. Um, but yeah, we're gonna keep up until then. We're gonna be trying to do weekly episodes. Social media, we got to get on top of. That's honestly, I take a lot of responsibility for that because I have ideas and I don't do them. Like I should be better at that and being respectful for you guys for following us, which we greatly appreciate and stuff. Speaking of which, social medias. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube. We're all over the place. Beyond the Tavern Wall. I'm really doing this off the cuff, guys. Like I'm really doing this. So if it's a little messy, I apologize. Um, but yeah, some of the topics I want to talk about today, there won't be one specific. There's just a lot of thoughts on my mind when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons that I like to get off my chest. If you guys don't know, if you're a listener of the podcast, you would know I talk a lot. It's really funny because I do the editing as well, and in the editing, um, you have like the wavelengths for each person who chats, and mine is like a significant portion of the edit, and I'm like, ah, shoot, I really gotta be quiet and like let other people talk, and other people do talk. I just talk a lot, and I take a long time to form thoughts, and it goes over and over. So whoopsies, not gonna apologize totally because it's fun and I enjoy this. So you guys get to hear me completely today, and if you're sick of hearing me talk, I'm not going to say skip the episode because I don't want you to skip the episode, but next week's episode, I'm really excited for that one. Done a lot of research and it'll be fun. So, um, but some of the topics I want to talk about today. So I'm going to talk. There's been drama around the D&D like community right now, but I think it's important to talk about in the whole as people who are into Dungeons and Dragons, but also people who also just hobbyist in general. I think it's an important topic to talk about. It's gatekeeping. There's been a lot of people who are like almost gatekeeping Dungeons and Dragons because it's become so popular recently. And there's like these hardcore purists who are like, no, we want it to continue to be the nerdy thing. Like that. We play secretly in our basements and like no, like that's not D&D at all anymore. Nerd culture is modern culture. I remember growing up before um, I mean, I'm only 28, so it's not like I'm crazy old, but I mean, 28 years old, it's still time to know what happened before Marvel, before Iron Man came out, before Avengers. Like that was you were considered weird and nerdy if you like that stuff. But now it's over here like D&D is so popular. Marvel is literally the most popular franchise to ever exist in the cinematic universe recently. I mean, Endgame was insane, Infinity Wars was insane. The nerd culture is culture. That is the culture we live in as a whole now, and it's no longer seen as this weird thing, or shouldn't be seen as this weird thing anymore. because it's normal. It's what people do. And honestly, who gives a fetch what people do? All right. So gatekeeping in D&D, and kind of going with that, like, do rules really matter when it comes down to Dungeons and Dragons? I'm gonna be talking about my favorite things as a DM. I've been trying to figure out like what I enjoy the most out of being a DM and out of D&D, and I have a few things there. I'm going to talk about how do I find my inspiration? Where can you guys find inspiration? Um and then there's an episode I missed. I think when my daughter was born, I missed one of the episodes that I really, really wanted to be a part of. It was Folklores and Legends. So if you guys remember that episode, I want to give my thoughts officially a year later. The Figgy thoughts, uh, the Braden Figgy thoughts about folklore, myths, and legends in a D&D universe. How can they exist? And then at the end, I'm gonna be taking questions from the live stream chat. So, um, you guys listening to this later on, I'll just be taking questions from the live that we're doing right now. So gatekeeping in Dungeons Dragons. There's been two things big that have come up that in the recent months that I haven't really done it. I've only like I try to stay out of drama, especially when it comes to like the D&D community. Granted, I do have some like hot takes when it comes to stuff, and I mean we've done like a whole hot take episode. And I kind of regret what my hot take was. I wish I'd done something different. I didn't really read the room, and that's my apologies. So maybe I'll talk about that a little bit as well towards the end. But there's been some people who recently have really just like the community has just been heated over things. The first example I want to give is Brennan Lee Mulligan, a fantastic professional dungeon master for Dimension 20, Critical Role. Him in a recent Critical Role episode, um, basically was like someone role played super duper well. I don't know the whole. I actually don't watch a ton of Critical Role anymore. That's a whole nother topic. Actual plays are a whole nother topic that we can talk about. If we have time, we can bring it up. But Brendan Lee Mulligan brought up basically this guy, whoever it was, role played a situation super duper duper well, where he was like, "I'm not even gonna have you roll for that. You know, one of the mechanics of the game, you're just gonna get a natural 20." And the community, or at least some people in the community, flipped out about that because he didn't have them roll for what was gonna happen. And to me, I think that's stupid because one, we've talked about a lot. I D&D handbook, the one I have over there, it's not next to me. It's a blueprint. It's a guidebook. It's not the I don't play D&D rules as written. I believe it is a set of guidelines that you can follow if you want to tell an epic story. For me, that's what Dungeons and Dragons is all about. It's about telling an epic story with your friends, and however the flip you want to do that is however you're going to do that, right? So Brendan Lee Mulligan did that. He kind of skipped over that kind of major rule. Is that a problem? Is that bad? No, it's not, because it's his game, it's his table. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to completely change rules in the from the Dungeons and Dragon rulebook, that's completely fine. And the people who are trying to be like, no, you can't do that, this is stupid, blah blah blah, can shut up. In my opinion, I know it might be a little harsh coming from me, but I truly don't think people's opinions when it comes to like how someone runs a table necessarily matter, if that makes sense. That might be not exactly the words I'm looking for, because sometimes it's like if your DM's a terrible tyrant, um, a terrible tyrannical tyrant, you don't want, like, obviously there are some things that matter, but like if it's a stranger for an actual play, Critical Role is insanely successful. Brendan Lee Mulligan is a fantastic storyteller. In all honesty, he can do whatever he wants. He has the right to, and he doesn't have to take your what people say. He doesn't have to, because it's his game and he knows the rules. He understands it, and he gets it. And he understands the point, at least for me, of D&D is to tell a story. At the end of Exandria Unlimited Calamity, another Critical Role actual play. It was a 4-part series. If you want a really good example of D&D played to its peak, go watch that. Exandria Unlimited Calamity. It is phenomenal. I've talked about it before. I one of the characters in it, played by Travis Willingham, is my all-time favorite actual play character. Forgot the name. Terrible. I just said it's my favorite character, and I can't even tell you the name. It is the way that Travis plays it, because it kind of comes to a point where I'm a big family guy. I'm not Peter Griffin, but I'm a family guy. I love my family. I do everything I do is for my family, my wife, my kids, my family. Like it's important to me. His character had a lot of family related things in that were super hit kind of close to home. Not in the sense of like the events of what happened in Exandria Limited Calamity hit close to home, but just the characters being a family guy and the love for his that he shows for his family really hit kind of close to home, and I was rooting for the character the whole time. I forgot where I was going with that. At the end, oh yeah, here we go. Sorry, this is where I'm going with that. At the end, Brandon Lee Mulligan said something along at the very end, and it stuck with me. It's just, why do we tell stories? And so I've thought about that a lot, and a lot of times, like I tell a story because I believe stories are the way that we as human beings can overcome the things in our life without necessary or learn to overcome the things in our life without being directly in there. Does that make sense? Like we can escape from the hardships of of life, because life is hard. Like that's just a give me. Like I'm not trying to be like, oh, like life is easy or anything, because it's not. It's not easy by any means. Like it's a pain in the butt. And stories are a way we can escape it, but it's also a way we can learn to deal with it. I um talked a lot with friends uh ever since becoming a parent. I have a hard time watching shows when that have put the kid in a kid in danger, because I immerse myself in shows. So for example, I can't watch Jurassic Park because I don't like watching people get eaten alive, because I imagine myself as that person. And that might be my only horror ick in the entire world, is people getting eaten alive like that. If it's cartoon, I don't care. If it's like anime, I watch Attack on Titan. It's fine. But like like real people doing that. So if you have like a real kid in danger, I get nervous, and it makes me sick to my stomach, because I'm imagining me as a father. What am I going to do in that situation? Could I save my daughter in that situation? I'm not afraid to explore that in a story, though, because for me, you need to be able to explore that stuff to know what you would do and answer those questions. I have a character. I brought up this character I think before, where I want to play a character. If I ever play in a D&D campaign again, I'm stuck as a forever DM. Oh no. I hope to play again. Because I have an idea for a character that's been on my mind, where it is a father that goes on. It's kind of like a Mulan. I kind of like Mulan twisted it. Um, Son or daughter goes to war or whatever, and dies, or ends up dying from a man-made disaster. So the dad goes on a revenge arc to kill the person who killed their child. And it's not a happy, oh, I revenge. The point of it is to explore, what would I do in that situation? I lost my kid. I wouldn't go on a revenge arc like that, but like, how do I emotionally deal with that? Like the point of that character is, it wasn't does he get revenge or not? It's, who is the person that he becomes after the death of his kid. Kind of off topic, like from gatekeeping. We're trying to talk about storytelling, but that's what storytelling is all about. So people who are telling other DMs what to do and not to do, and are aggressive and gatekeep the experience of D&D, shouldn't do that, because the point is to tell a story, not to play a game. It might be to play a game for some people, but for me, it's to tell a story. So that really comes down to the point of, do rules matter? Let me grab my, rule book real fast. Okay. I have all 3 books of the 5.5 edition, right here. Does it matter? You flip to a random page. Oh, well, I don't know where the rules are in this book, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. Does it matter if I allow someone to do a crazy dope backflip when realistically it's not going to happen? No, because a rule of cool, it's part of the story. Doesn't matter if I make someone roll for something or not. No, it doesn't matter because I'm the DM and I get to decide what goes. The DM is the final decider. And if people have a problem with that, they got to learn to not, because that's how the game goes. That's part of the rules of the game, is the DM has the last say. And that is what it is. The rules don't really matter in the end. As long as you're having fun, that's what's most important, right? Yeah. So moving on from that, unless there's anything people want to say in chat. So what is important? What are my favorite things about being a DM? That's a great transition. I'm so great at transitions, guys. I'm so good. That was a perfect, nonchalant, easy way in. So, like, talk about storytelling. Some of my favorite things. As a DM, I just went off on storytelling. I'll go off on it again and again. I grew up. I remember. I'd get, if you guys have ever read like the Warrior books about the cats, I loved those books growing up. Super duper great. I wanted to be an author growing up, and I've really thought about getting back in, like, exploring that avenue again as I've gotten back into reading over the past year or two. It's really nice. I work in construction, so I can put my headphone in and I just listen to books or economy stuff or stuff or whatever I want to listen to. Um, Music sometimes. I honestly probably listen to more books and stuff. Right now, I'm listening to. If you guys have not listened to Old Gods of Appalachia, holy crap, it's amazing. I highly recommend go listen to it. Not sponsored. Um, but yeah, storytelling is definitely one of my favorite things. I love books. I really, really do. I love reading. I've reread. I recently just reread Percy Jackson. I'm a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal author, and a lot of what I do, the universe I've created for Dungeons and Dragons, is kind of based off of that and what he's written. Like his whole Cosmere, I've created a whole universe. Mine's a little different because his is not related to Earth at all. It's definitely more fantasy, but mine is in basically it's all in the same galaxy as Earth. Earth is part of my world, um, my universe and stuff. Um, yeah, but like reading Brandon Sanderson is really like so fun because his stories are phenomenal. Do I think the 5th book of Stormlight Archive held up to the expectations that we had for it? No. Doesn't mean it was a bad book. It wasn't as good as any of his other books, but it was a good book overall. I would read it again. If I was going through the thing, I wouldn't skip over it. But the world building aspect of it all, just like how he does in building that world to tell a story, is so fun to me. I have a problem where I just will build and build worlds, and we'll talk about this in, I believe, where we're going to be recording a world building episode tomorrow. So I'll probably be going over this a little bit more detail again, but I love world building. I have a note on my phone. Let me pull it up. World Cup's going on right now. USA just won 2-0, but we had our main goal scorer got a red card. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not welcome to the FIFA World Dungeons and Dragons FIFA World Cup podcast. Let's see. It's in my world called the Manyfold. That's my universe. I have this whole, like list right there. Um, I have a whole list of just a bunch of different things that I want to come up with, and then I have this like D&D world ideas because how it works for me is um I'll have an idea, and then um I'll write that down. And my coworker he writes books, like he actually writes books. And if you're an agent or know an agent, publish him because his books are really good. He has a lot of really really cool ideas, and we'll talk storytelling sometimes. And he told me a lot of the times what has to happen is he'll come up with an idea, and then he'll come up with another idea, and realize that those two worlds will work together super well. So, and that's how he creates a story, and that's kind of what I realized I do a lot. I have a world. I want to make a ocean world and kind of do like a full pirate campaign thing, but um I kind of never could get the identity of that world down and what I exactly wanted until I was listening. I love this song by Listener. We listened to it on stream a while ago, and I've talked about this on stream, called Wooden Heart by Listener. And there's a part in the song where he says, I built this wooden heart inside this iron ship to sail these blood red seas to find your coast. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about this world. It's called Amara, this ocean world, and I've been trying to find the quirk with it. But the whole quirk is that each ship is they have to build these iron ships. They have to build these wooden hearts, and that's kind of the engine of it. The magic of the ship is within the wooden heart. And so those were the two ideas that came together, and then slowly I've been forming this world. That who flippin' knows if I'll ever do a campaign in it, you know. Um, but I've created this world, and like if I ever do, when I do, I want to write stories. When I do start writing stories, it's gonna be a world that I create. Like a lot of these D&D stories are canon to my universe, right? Um, so I've really really grown to love world building. Um, Brandon Sanderson in his lectures on writing that he does at BYU, Brigham Young University, he teaches there. He talks about there is a problem with world building though, and I feel like I've ran into this problem where what he calls builder disease, where someone will just create a world and go because everything has to be perfect. They're like, oh no, I need to know the cultures of the world. Oh, that means I need to know how they dress, how they eat, how they walk, how they sleep, how they cry, how they fight, how they fly. Like you have to know everything. But in reality, you don't want to world build. You just have to know, just get it out there, set a deadline, and then go. And then the world will build along with it. Just take what you do, and then maybe you write a little bit, and then you stop. World build, then start. It's always important to start. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I guess that's a good life lesson is just start. Always start. Another favorite thing of mine is role playing. Again, a lot of these things are based around storytelling. You guys know, you guys have heard on the podcast 1,000 times. I hate combat. I really do not like combat. I think there's one. I combat is slow, and my brain is so brain rotted that it doesn't matter. Like I have to have fast things, which isn't good. I'm trying to heal it, chat. That's why I'm reading. I'm trying to get off Instagram and I can't because it's the NBA free agency and I want to learn how the Jazz are gonna do and we lost what anyway. Um but role play like combat to me is so boring because I don't feel like it necessarily progresses the story in the way that a role play can. Um I also think, and this is me probably being a little hypocritical about not telling DMs what to do. I think a lot of DMs do combat wrong when it comes down to the purpose of it. A lot of players as well. I'm going to say players and DMs. Your bandits are bandits. They probably are bandoliering because they need to make money. They're not going to risk their life for that. Also, all of your characters, your players, they're all murder hobos because they just kill everything you put in front of them. There's no, I want to save this person. There's no, not, it's, I want to, they attacked me. Therefore, they are punished to death. The death penalty is on the table because they touched me with a stick. Like that's just kind of the thing. Like you get into combat It's not a it's a fight to the death. It's not a fight to survive, it's a fight to the death kind of deal. Like I'm going to kill you before you kill me, not like the morals of your character should play more of a role in combat than they do in just as much as they do in roleplay. Because that's the story your character is telling. I want to some of my characters like the whole purpose is to not be combative in the sense of I want to kill everything, but understand that sometimes you have to fight to survive, but don't go kill things all the time. Like I think that's important for a player to know. Like I mean, maybe if they're demons and devils and like monsters that are not as sapient and sentient as humans are, yeah, you could probably kill them because they're probably not as like wanting to. They probably want to kill you. But even then, like if you're fighting a beast, let's say you're fighting like a displacer beast, as a DM, what's the backstory of the displacer beast? Why are they fighting these people? Are they hunting for their newborn? Or what, Like what's the purpose behind them? If they're hunting for their newborn, they don't want to die because they got a newborn to feed. So if they feel like they're getting overpowered, have them back up. Tell a story with that. That's a way to tell a story. Uh, and then I just feel like there's so much more opportunities to tell a story within combat that I am specifically so bad at. I am so bad at having an engaging like combat that it's so hard for me, and I feel bad for my players because I'm not making it engaging for them. And like there's a lot of times in campaigns where I almost kind of avoid combat because of that, but can't because that's an integral part of Dungeons and Dragons. And if you've talked to your players in a session 0 about it, like they should like you shouldn't be you should be doing it. But how can you do it in a way that tells a story kind of deal that fits my values and principles? That's a lot of how I've been thinking of is in my belief window. What is in my belief window? And how does that form every decision that I make? Like, and it's something I think about in world building a lot. Is what are the values and beliefs of these people, of this culture, of this empire? Now let me run 500 questions through that belief system, and that's how you determine the culture and how these guys go. I was watching a Stellaris. That's a video game. It's a sci-fi video game role play stream the other day, and they were going over the list. The whole point is like this guy is trying to be the good guy. A lot of times he ends up being the bad guy in the game. Stars we've played on stream, really fun game. He's been the bad guy on a lot of his streams. So this one he's trying to specifically be the good guy. And the problem that they had, I feel like, is that chat when they were all because he does it with his chat, and they were discussing all of these things about okay, what is like what is good and what is bad, you know, like, and they got too nitpicking on what was good, like to the point where it's just like okay, this thing they kind of lost. I feel like chat went meta knowledge a little bit to it instead of thinking okay, in the lens of this empire, in the belief window of this empire where I see my values and I see my beliefs through that window, what would this empire see as good? And that's a way you can take it in with your characters and your role play as a DM is what are the values of this person? Okay, how do they react within those values? That's not saying they always will, because you betray your values and your morals sometime, and that's part of life, and that's fine. That's just experience. And sometimes your more values change and your alignments change and all that. Like lawful good people don't always make lawful good decisions. And also, it's all subjective. Let's be honest. One person's lawful good may not be as lawful good as another person's, or maybe worse than another. Like to someone else. Um, but yeah, so like combat, I want to see that role play. That's how I want to see it. I enjoy those situations to like I said, I immerse myself in stuff. So I put myself in those situations, and when I do world building and stuff, or when I'm DMing, I'm immersed as the character, and I'm trying to get better at seeing a character through their value system, through their belief. Um, and like one of the ways I do that is just I'm trying to find a transition, guys. I'm trying to go from B to C right now, and I can't because we're gonna be talking about inspiration next, and I've kind of talked about that before about where do I find my inspiration. Um, I don't know. I'm just gonna just jump straight to it. Terrible. I'll work on my transitions if I ever have to do a solo episode again. Okay. I guess even during the thing, during normal podcasts, I kind of just go one on one, right? Um, but uh, where do I find my inspiration? Um, I find my inspiration a lot of times through reading and watching videos and just thinking about things. One of my big inspirations right now for um is horror. Horror in general is super interesting. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I think horror is one of the greatest ways you can tell a story. Because it brings out legitimate fears that someone has, and those fears can be dealt with in a specific way that can help someone learn and overcome those fears. Like, yeah, action and stuff is really cool because you get to see, like, if you watch an Indiana Jones show, it's freaking dope because the guy's swinging on a whip, he's whipping people, he's treasure hunting and all that stuff, fighting off the supernatural as a treasure hunter. I mean, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is just one of the greatest movies of all time. I actually haven't seen it in a while. I didn't when I was a kid. I thought it was great. Um, so I say that jokingly, but also at the same time, I also said it like was it? But I personally didn't have a problem with King Crystal Skull. Um, but those ones are cool because you get more of the feeling of like, heck yeah, that's so cool. Or you get the heck yeah, the feeling of overcoming something, which I think is a way more powerful feeling overall. Um, so a lot of my stuff comes from horror. One of my recent inspirations is a lot of analog horror. Um, Oakburn Opus is a good one. Um, Mandela Catalog, I get a lot of inspirations from. Like I said, I'm currently listening to Old Gods of Appalachia. I'm getting a lot of ideas for that for a campaign I'm running right now. And you'll learn a little bit more about that campaign later. But like a lot, it's just, and it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna rip this right out of it. It's more of like oh, cool, I like how they did that. I'm going to adapt it to the world I've created. There's no such thing, we've talked about it before, there's no such thing as an original idea. I love what Kendall said, where she said there is such thing as an original person. Like, there are how many different takes on the hero's journey? Hundreds, thousands, millions different takes of the hero's journey, but each one unique in their own way. How many fantasy is in my modern fantasy is 100% um family treed down through Tolkien. A lot of modern fantasy is Tolkienified. Elves, dwarfs, men, hobbits, orcs, all of those come from Tolkien. Oh, not token. That's really bad. Have I said token like 15 times? That's Tolkien. Ah, gosh, I hope I've said Tolkien because that would be really awkward. Um, and that's not saying it's a bad thing. Like, take inspiration from it, adapt it to your own thing. A lot of my inspiration, again, it comes from Brandon Sanderson. I really like what Brandon Sanderson does, so I take inspiration from what he does. He is phenomenal with magic systems, so I've tried to be better with my magic systems. My I when it comes to like my worlds, Kerrigan, the world that we were playing in originally, is what I call my D&D world. It's just my typical fantasy world. Elves, dwarves, dragonborn, all that stuff. Like basically what you find in the D&D rule books and handbooks, that's going to be Kerrigan. But then I've thought like, okay, how do I morph that idea of I want different magic systems into Dungeons and Dragons? And one that's really difficult if you're trying to keep playing the system of 5e, 5th edition, because they kind of railroad you into a specific magic system. I either have to find a new TTRP, a new tabletop role playing model to use, or I have to make my own, and that's blah, blah, blah. But like, for example, one of my worlds, Palalethios, they specifically is it well the magic system is a little bit inspired by RuneScape because when I was creating this world, I was doing a lot of divination in RuneScape. So guess what? It's all about lists. And guess what you do in RuneScape when you're doing divination? Wisps and wisps galore, and it's obnoxious and it's so long. But it inspired me to make Pololethios, and how it is like basically the body of dead gods give off these divine magic that is harnessed into that these divine wisps, and they use these wisps, and that word's gonna destroy me. I'm not gonna be able to say that word. They use these wisps as their magic source, and that's the magic system behind. Um, so like, let's see. I think of what's another world? Amara. Let me look at my world and just see. Um, I mean, I'm gonna be doing a on stream. I'm gonna be doing my own non-podcast Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Like not with everyone from the podcast and stuff, just more on the stream. But it's on a world I call Hazard. And Hazard was inspired by I was listening to the Red Dead Redemption 2 album. It was like, I want to make a high fantasy Western world. And I had another few ideas, and I've combined, like I said, I find ideas and I combine them together, and the world of Hazard has come to be. And that's a world I created so much animal husbandry. Like I have three, like the Valo plant, the Ponter, and the Wayland. Ponter and Wayland. The Ponter are this giant boar bison hybrid, and then the Wayland are these woolly slugs. And I've created a whole like ecosystem with them. It's a lot. My brain hurts. Um, for example, Earth in my another inspiration, Earth, um, the now defunct mini campaign we were gonna do. We stopped it like a year or so ago. I'm really sad. Was set on Earth in a city called the City of Innovation, and the whole purpose it was kind of like cyberpunk themes because I was playing cyberpunk at the time. I thought it was really cool. But it also is about my opinions and thoughts on the world. Like the inspiration came from me trying to figure out like what does agency and the ability to choose really mean? What is consciousness? You know? And then I've looked at games like, okay, that's kind of like Soma. It's like Soma, it's like kind of Portal in a way, like maybe not the gameplay of Portal, but just that idea. But like Soma, the Soma explored the idea of what is life. Is it the mind or the body? And that was the point of the campaign. It's kind of like, what is agency? What is life? Is it better to live in this Elysium place, or is it better to suffer but have the ability to choose? Kind of deal. Um, I guess it kind of goes like Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden kind of deal, right? Palalethios. I mean, even in my Kerrigan world, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from stuff like when I introduced this was the world I was doing in our home campaign, and so I thought about it a lot. Um, but there was a lot of inspiration from games I was playing. My original first character idea I wanted to do like original way back when I started playing in 2019 was based off of a character in League of Legends. I was gonna be a blind monk and I was gonna talk to my DM to see if like instead of like losing all sight and having that as a crux, could I like say technically as like blind sight, normal sight out to like just normal sight, but it's through his blind senses that he can do it and stuff. Um, but that was based off of a character from League of Legends. You know, the game that everyone makes fun of and thinks is extremely toxic, but probably isn't as toxic as Dead by Daylight. Um, is an extremely toxic game. That's where my first character came from. I had that's where like a lot of my first things um happened and oh gosh, I'm now lost track of my train of thought. Like, yeah, League of Legends was a big one. A lot of my inspirations have actually come from League of Legends. The whole beginning of Hunter, Haley, Amber's group started from the story of Viego from League of Legends. The whole story of Viego is that he was this king from another nation, young king, kind of really like conquered for his wife. Wife got sick, tried to save his wife. Wife ended up dying. Like he took him to like this water, this body of water, to try to save his wife. Wife ended up not being saved. It was a trick, and he turned evil. That was the kind of whole thing. Um, yeah, you can find inspiration from anywhere. Like truly, like if you're playing starting your first character, don't be like, oh my gosh, I'm ripping this off, because it doesn't matter, because you're playing a game and you're gonna have fun, and it will never end up the same way that specific character did that you ripped it off from. Okay, and your first character is, again, we call it a comfort character. It's a character that's basically just gonna be you implanted into a fantasy world. Take inspiration from anywhere. It really doesn't matter. Like if I mean, if you're writing a book and you just straight up one to one copy Aragorn, all right, hold up. Let's talk. That's just plagiarism. Like make them unique and make them up to you. A lot of my inspiration comes from just just reading, a lot of stories, a lot of listening. I listen to a lot of stories, just listening to stories, and don't be afraid to just like, I like that, I'm adapting it. Like I said, Old Gods of Appalachia. I'm adapting so much because it's so cool. I wrote down 2 character ideas. I want to play as, explore that in a fantasy setting. Um, Now let's talk about the episode that I missed, that I was really sad that I missed. I'm a big folklore, myths, and cryptids guy. I think they're so fun. Again, what I'm realizing, this is just the storytelling episode. This is me ranting about storytelling. Folklore, big storytelling. I took a class in college and then I dropped out because I wasn't going to college anymore. Um, but I love the idea of folklore and myths and legends in a fantasy campaign, and cryptids specifically too. Because in my mind, you think of cryptids: Bigfoot, Mothman, the Jersey Devil, the Bear Lake Monster, Chupacabra. What else do you have? Oh, I'm thinking Ozark Howler, Banshee of the Badlands. Like, you have all of these, like, what we would call fantasy creatures in our real world, non-fantasy world. How do you have a fantasy creature in a fantasy world have the same effect as like Bigfoot does to us? Because in my mind, like, the cryptids aren't real. Mothman's not real. Guys, sorry, Bigfoot's not real. I live by the motto, it's not fun. Life's not fun if you don't believe in Bigfoot. But I'm also, logical enough to know Bigfoot doesn't exist. But how do you have that in a fantasy world that is full of monsters and myths and demons and devils and all this stuff? And so it's a thing I think about a lot. Is one way to do it is to limit what kind of monsters you have in your world. Um, because then when the imagination kind of float, you allow the people, or maybe not limit the monsters that in the world, limit the monsters that people know in your world. Not everyone is going to know about demons and devils and dragons and mummies and zombies and all that stuff. They may have heard something, but that's where the folklore could start. Sorry. That's where the folklore could stop. Oh my gosh. I heard from my grandma, who heard from her grandma, that if you stay up at night, old widow Carol is going to come get you. No, the old hag Carol is to come out and get you. No, old hag Carol doesn't exist. Hags exist in the world though, but the story behind the hag, that's the folklore. As I'm discussing this, right, that's like coming through my mind, because I didn't necessarily have an answer to that question of like, how do you do folklore in a D&D world. And I was really hoping I could discuss it with the people on the podcast. But as I'm talking about it, it's like, it's the stories behind it that really create the folklore for the character. Maybe, there's a hag that lives in the neighboring grove over from a town, and people don't know that, but people have seen the hag. And then all of a sudden, for generations, old hag Carol has become this. That's terrible. My neighbor's name is Carol. I don't think she's an old hag. She's a wonderful human being, and they're awesome family. Maybe old hag. We're gonna do old hag Ophelia. There we go. Uh, that's editor, which is me. Go just mouth Ophelia over everything. I'm not going to do that. That's too much work. Um, Old hag Ophelia, is now is a legend and is real, but maybe the stories that were told about her, that's the folklore, that's the myth of old hag Ophelia, who's just next door and is a peaceful hag who just have run in and has scared a few people, and it created a legend about it. I think of like um I talk a lot about prophecy. Um and legend and stuff. You know, you can have legends in your world about old adventurers, prophecy. I do believe prophecy, and I really love this idea that prophecy is actually not about anyone specific. It's about the person who can fulfill the prophecy, even if it's not specifically them, kind of deal. Um, Dune does that a lot. The prophecy that the Bene Gesserit, I believe it's the Bene Gesserit, I'm pretty sure it is, give is a complete lie. But Paul Atreides, is over here like, well, I know the prophecy's not true. They believe the Fremen believe the prophecy is real. I'm going to be that prophetic character, that prophetic person in their prophecy. So therefore, by choosing to follow the prophecy, he fulfills the prophecy that isn't true, but therefore is true because he fulfilled it. I love that idea that it doesn't matter who it is. Someone could just show up and fulfill a prophecy because they know of the prophecy. I think that is so fun, and that is such a cool like twist on a legend and stuff. Like I in the Wheel of Time, kind of a very similar thing where it's just like Rand coming out as the dragon, as like learning he has spoilers a little bit. You learn in the first book, but Rand following the prophecy, and he was over here is like, I guess this is the next thing I got to do, and he goes and does that. Go read Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. It's 14 books. It's really long. And I'll be honest, some of the books didn't have to be books. There's a lot of filler, but it's still really great storytelling. Um, and then Robert Jordan died before he could finish it, and he had Brandon Sanderson write the last 3 books. I'll be honest, picked up way fast, really picked up. Um, but yeah, like I've always thought of, in my universe, the cryptids in on Earth are actually just monsters from a world that has those that have kind of leaked over. For example, um, Bigfoot is a Barlgura. I mean, gosh, I need water, and I didn't bring water down. My throat's gonna be dead tomorrow. Let me find the Barlgura. Um, B-A-Q-R. Barlgura. There we go. Can you see that photo right there? See, look. It looks like Bigfoot. So therefore, that is Bigfoot. Is this Barlgura? A Casme is Mothman. Chupacabra, probably like a Hellhound or something. I haven't thought about that one, or like just stuff like that. So like that's a fun way I've kind of put folklore into Earth, but also making it like real. Um, I do think folklore can exist in your D&D world. Writing the stories that your parents tell their kids is really kind of fun to do. Like, okay, here's the story of Bagman, which is an actual D&D character, but like, or here's the story. It will go back to old hag Ophelia. You know, a lot of folklore was told to kids as more of a to keep them out of danger, from keeping them to going into the woods, which they could get injured or die in, not because of the werewolf or the hag down in the thing, but just because it's dangerous to go in the woods at night. So parents would tell their kids, hey, if you don't go to sleep, Sandman will come and get you. Okay. You're going to want to go to sleep if this creepy Sandman is going to come throw sand in your eyes and kill you. So you can have that in your world. And you also have such a vast knowledge of just different creatures you can do. For example, I'm like, first, I'm not going to do those ones that I flipped to. I just flipped to another one. Um, I'm trying to find like the myconoids. Myconoids. What folklore, what myth can you come up about them that is a story passed down from generation to generation that teaches some sort of lesson about these mushroom creatures. Like that's what folklore is. They're lessons to be taught. All right, what creature? What the fetch is a Alfeshni? That's weird. I haven't seen that one. Like, okay, you have this Paraton. Paraton? I don't necessarily remember. This um bird with antlers. Okay, what's the folklore behind that? Hello. Oh, my apologize. My microphone cord just fell out. I don't know how that happened. Um, but like, what's the folklore you can create behind that? And it's a fun opportunity that you have to. Maybe that's a good like. Maybe I should do that. Maybe we do that on stream sometimes. Is find a D&D monster and come up with like a folklore story to create a myth about the creature. Come up with a cryptid for the creature. No, and then we can add that into like a D&D world. No, they can't exist. I think it's a little bit harder to make it more of that like fantastical that we have in like for Bigfoot and stuff like that hunt because monsters and like that do exist in the world, in your fantasy world. Um, but yeah, I think there's 100% room for those people to exist. One last thing for the last thing I want to talk about on the um for the episode is my hot take that I had a while ago. I don't. You can go back and listen to it. I'm debating on whether or not I edit my part out because I don't think it was in good taste at all. Talk about AI and D&D and that it could help. And like I'm not going back on my opinion. Um but um I don't necessarily agree with what I said during it. So like I'm kind of taking back what I said, and I think I could have said it a lot better. But I also like, as times have changed, I don't agree with how I said it. And if I were to do anything, my hot take now would be that your D&D fantasy world should evolve, and eventually Magic should be phased out. That's my hot take. I will stand by that. I will go what Brandon Sanderson says. Also, just my idea of human evolution and progression. This is my own personal belief: is we humans, and for the sake of D&D, like humanoids, sapient species of society, that live in society, have a need to progress and be better and become more efficient. So therefore, if it takes me 6 seconds to cast a spell, but an instant to turn on, like let's say it takes me 6 seconds to do prestidigitation or whatever however you pronounce it, but it takes me less than 5 seconds to change the color on my lights. I hit the same button. Why wouldn't I, as a person, want technology to advance to a point where maybe magic is not necessarily gone, but it's not the main source of power? I like in Brandon Sanderson, a lot of his books is that the magic is used in technology. I really think that's really like super cool how it's like, oh, we still use magic, but we also utilize magic as a tool to progress humanity. And I think your D&D worlds need to eventually, if you're doing campaigns over and over again, and you're doing like significant time jumps, like after a few thousand years in a time jump. I mean, if you think of we flew in 1903, right, or something like that, or like beginning of the 1900s, and then we were on the moon in the 1960s. 60 years from flight to space, being on the moon. We had a significant advantage in a fantasy world of having magic, dude. Your world should evolve and have the magic evolve with you. But like casting firebolt is a lot slower than me shooting a gun. Like that's just how it is. Like your world will eventually evolve and grow out of magic in the same sense it has when you that we as humanity have grown out of things we did in the medieval or Stone Age and stuff like that. We don't use stone tools anymore. We don't use bronze tools like they used to anymore. We don't fight with swords and muskets. We've evolved as a species. Why would your D&D world not evolve as a species? Um, those are my thoughts. That's everything I have for the episode. Let me know what you guys thought of this. Do you guys like the solo episodes? I mean, the likelihood of us doing these often are not very likely. They're kind of a last minute need an episode kind of deal. Um, but if you enjoy these, that's good to know, because then we can kind of go from there and what we want to do. I also enjoy this. Maybe on stream we do, maybe not specifically D&D, but like topics of interest. We just call them Figgy Thoughts, and we do another like podcast segment or something like that. And we just talk. Or I can come up with like a presentation for stuff of things I'm interested in. Those would also be good YouTube videos too. But yeah, this was the first live solo episode of Beyond the Tavern Wall. So yeah, it's fun. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. My throat hurts. Let me do the outro now. Thank you guys so much for coming out. And don't forget, this is what I'm doing now. Don't forget to pay your tab and follow us on social media, Instagram and TikTok at Beyond the Tavern Wall. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you can drop them in our comment box by the front door, at Beyond the Tavern Wall at gmail.com. Or you can shoot us an DM on TikTok or Instagram, and we can answer those. And the best way to support the podcast is by word of mouth. Going out, sharing the podcast with your friends, D&D groups, whoever it may be, is the best way to do that. And since I am the only one here, I will be the one to offer up the side quest that we can give you. And I think the side quest for today, guys, is going to be share the podcast with someone who likes the same books as you do. We talked a lot about storytelling, so likes a lot of the same stories as you do. But that'll be out. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the tavern. We will catch you back here next week. Have a good night, everyone.